following is an encore presentation of Moral Side of the News. Hello and welcome to Moral Side of the News, our weekly discussion of today's top stories from a moral, ethical, and religious point of view. I'm Sean Kalin with the WHAS Crusade for Children, and I'm joined today, as always, by a distinguished panel of local religious leaders. Reverend Clay Calloway, West Louisville Ministers Coalition, Reverend Dr. George Wasson, Faith Point Church, Rabbi Stan Miles, Louisville Melton School, Reverend Sally McLean, Christian Church Disciples of Christ, and Father Tony Smith, Archdiocese of Louisville. We begin this week with the verdicts in two closely watched trials involving social media and whether it's safe for children. Two landmark verdicts this week, one in New Mexico and one in California.
Tonight, in a landmark verdict that could open the floodgates to more lawsuits against social media titans, a jury finding Meta's Instagram and Google's YouTube harmed young users by designing their apps to be addictive.
We've sent a message with this that you will be held accountable.
The jury in Los Angeles awarding 20-year-old Kaylee, at the center of this case, $6 million. Kaylee testifying she started using social media as young as age 6. She says it led to depression, anxiety, and body image issues. During the trial, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg defended safety features, but said Meta has acknowledged for a while that people get around the age restrictions. The first of its kind verdict comes just one day after a New Mexico jury ordered Meta in a separate case to pay $375 million for failing to warn kids about predators online. Tonight, families reacting outside of court. Schott's daughter, Annalie, took her own life at 18 years old after Lori says social media triggered body image issues.
Big tech, your gig is over.
Yep.
So panel, we bring it out to you. Your thoughts on this decision and social media in general and where we're headed or where we've been.
I'm proud to say I don't use it. I'm not online. I look at Facebook if there are pictures for my grandchildren. That's about it. And I'm just wondering, the young woman who started using it at age 6 and she's 20 and had all sorts of problems, where were her parents at age 6 and age 7 and age 8? That's my, I mean, am I being too judgmental? I don't know, but I'm just wondering.
I think parents have so much to do today that it's overwhelming, and trying to monitor cell phone usage would be very, very difficult. So she would have started even before COVID with this.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, I just think that the expectations on parents today are absolutely horrendous. So anything that could help would be a good thing.
Well, I have no problem with the judgments, but the point is, I think the responsibility of parenthood doesn't end because everything's so busy with them too.
Well, yeah.
But it's strange. My comment is they're worried about the youngsters, but how about us oldsters? Now, Stan, you don't use it. But the Pew Research Center just put out some data saying that the average American adult in this country, 70 to 80% of when they wake up within 15 minutes, have their phones in front of them, checking it out. Talking about addiction. And 75% of the Americans, before they go to bed, spend at least up to 3.5 hours checking social media before they go to bed. So with that, the adults already are addicted. Little wonder that the kiddos are being addicted. Now, it's a separate issue from where the sexual predation and all that other stuff that they're arguing in this case. But still, it's like the parents saying, who has an alcohol problem, don't drink to the kids. And so, I mean, that's where somewhere the parents are as well. They're caught up in this. I would wonder how many of the parents of the kiddos who they're showing their deceased children, and God help us and forgive us for that. But still, I wonder how many of those parents get up in the morning, first thing to do is check social media, things of this nature. It's just as addictive.
It's amazing they use terms. I mean, the terms they use around, like he's a user. I mean, those are the kind, and the way they use it is the same way we use it when we describe drug addictions, alcohol addictions, and the like. So it's in the same context when they say these are user, been a user since he was a little child, et cetera, et cetera. So we use addictive language when we describe the phenomenon of social media. Social media is indeed addictive. I'm guilty, if I can confess that, for a lot of reasons. We use it for different reasons. I use it for reading books, reading articles, and so forth like that. So everybody has the freedom to use it as they choose. So there's no real regulators that would prevent children from using it. They do have regulators on TVs and the like. You can't control what channel they can tune into and the like. I assume they do have some regulators like this. But what really stands out for me with this story, it reminds me of the story. Remember the movie The Insider? Sure. It was a movie about Brown and Williamson and the tobacco industry deliberately including addictive ingredients in the tobacco. Tobacco by itself was not as much a problem as the additive addictions that was deliberately added to create added addictions. So it was the fact that these big tobacco countries had deliberately included additional addictive additives to increase the addiction. And I think that appears to be what the judgment here is about them deliberately including addictive features to create addictions in these children, to create, whatever phenomenon that's sad to say has occurred, in some cases death. So I think this judgment is really directed at their intent of deliberately creating addictive features to increase the addiction of these children.
I'm not sure of the data, but I would wonder about the age in which these youngsters are given phones by their parents.
6 years old?
6 years old.
That's young.
Also, if you look, I know I come from a large family, you have family gatherings, and a lot of little nieces and nephews, I can't even name them anymore, great nieces and grandnephews. But they're busy in mom and daddy's way. They give them their phone.
Yeah.
And they sit there and push buttons and all that.
Or their iPads.
Right.
They do
Or
their
iPads,
iPads too.
Same way. So, I mean, where is that? In fact, even in our church, we have set up a program for the kiddos coming to church services. If they don't, little kids, they don't know what's going on up there. We actually have pads that parents can turn in their car keys. And for the little kids, they can sit there and whatever the guy up there in the dress is doing, they can push a button on and get a cartoon version of what's happening. It explains to them with the earphones that they can hear. So even that.
One of the things I want to point out is body image is so important in those particular teen years, early teen years. It used to be in high school, but now it's junior high and even younger. And so when you start, creating with issues like that around body image and critiquing and everything, that would be very, very difficult for a young person to try and decipher actually what's going on.
As I think about this story, and I hear what you're saying, is that it sounds to me, it's the natural progression of what we did when we were kids, right? Yeah. That it was candy, it was soda, it was comic books, it moved to Game Boys and PlayStations and Wiis, and we're at social media and everybody has it now on their phone. And I think I probably have the youngest kids here. And I remember so my daughter is in 9th grade, one of my daughters is in 9th grade, and some of her friends in 2nd grade were getting cell phones. And like, can I get a cell phone? I'm like, no, because it's my responsibility as the parent to regulate that, right?
Who's your regulators, yeah.
Because I'm the regulator, right? And even today, as a teenager, I will every once in a while say, I want to see your phone. And I scroll through and I look at her as much as I can look at, kind of deal, just for her safety, really, right. That I want to do that. Mm-hmm. And I just wonder, one of the first thoughts that came to mind when you sent us this story was, okay, so that's social media. So is the next the energy drinks that all the kids are drinking as well as adults? I won't name the brands, but everybody's drinking that now, and we know those are addictive, and we know that those have caffeine in it, and that's getting introduced at a younger age, and medicine is telling us that those are really hard on whether it's the kidneys or the liver, and so is the next suit going to be, hey, you targeted those energy drinks to our kids because the cool stars are drinking them, and So I haven't landed on this issue yet because I think social media, I think media in general is amoral. It's not good or bad. It's really what we do with it, right? And so clearly these judgments are going to come up for appeal. I mean, the one case said that, what was it, Meta is to blame for 70% and YouTube is to blame for 30%. I'm like, where in the world would you get those numbers, right? So I think it's
some algorithm.
Right, yeah.
No
so
doubt.
AI told them that.
Maybe, so I think this is opening the door, and I think we want to be really careful how that door is opened, because yes, at what point do we take away both personal and parental responsibility for their kids?
You know, we first started, this was my thought, this first was introduced with cigarette ads. Remember that?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So they started removing her in the 70s, I think. And with the Camel cigarettes, he had a Camel. His name was Camel.
Joe
Cool.
Camel.
Joe Camel.
Joe, yeah.
So he was so cool, they created the image of coolness. So it really was designed to protect the children because the ads was directed at the children. So it really kind of started in my generation with the cigarette ads. Yeah. And it's just escalated in one form or another. We have to just watch out for the children. We got to look out.
Yeah.
The Marlboro Man. Remember the Marlboro Man?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But your point, Sally, I'm sorry.
The whole thing, watching the video that we saw, these Meta, they are a gajillion-dollar company. I mean, you're going to give them sanctions. You're going to slap them on the roof, on the wrist. I don't think so.
What was it
Well,
reported?
it may have an effect, but $400 million
Well, no,
to us might be a lot,
but
but
Clay,
to them,
it was
it's,
reported that the next morning after that first judgment, the stock went up 5% for them.
But it's also seen as a stepping stone, I heard this morning, so that there are other suits that are going to follow. This was just the very,
like
very
48
beginning, like a baby
48
step
states
is
or
what they
something like
said.
And there's some countries that have banned, like Australia back in December, banned anybody under, I think, 18.
I was going to say to Sally's point about the parents, yes, they are very much overworked. My hope would be in regards to this, not just a monetary type punishment, but could they help parents in the sense of controlling, being regulators to these, set up in some form or fashion. And I don't know, some have it, I've seen them advertised that you can get cell phones for little kids. It's limited to one thing, period, something of that nature. But could they give the parents the right in some code or something like that they could put in? Kids would probably find out what it is, but not allow the kids to go to these certain sites.
You're saying the kids are smarter than the adults?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, even the regular smartphones, right? So when we gave our daughter her first smartphone, I took the browsers off the phone so that she could text people who I approved that she could text or receive from.
Right, there you go.
The email from who I approved. So the technology has those built-in kind of things. And so I think if we can figure out how to use those and utilize those instead of just saying, here, let me give you my babysitter.
Right, exactly.
And it's your cell phone or it's your iPad. And there's the challenge, most of our school systems, I'm not sure what's happening over here in Kentucky, but in Indiana, it's a huge issue right now about the number of schools. And when COVID hit, everybody got Chromebooks and iPads, and the teachers are all using YouTube to help teach and show those kinds of things. The sports teams are using Instagram and those things to keep up with everybody. And so, we're entering a very interesting stage where the technology got ahead of us being able to think about it. Right, to figure out. Now we're thinking, okay, how do we actually use this, control it, set some parameters in there for safety?
Right, the toothpaste is out of the tube. You can't get it back in.
And now that it's spring, and you're seeing more and more people outside walking around, depending on what day it is, it's either spring or winter. But anyway, and there's this path that goes across the road from where I live. And when I was a kid, I would have loved being back there all the time. I just would have, practically camped out there. I hardly see any children. They don't go outside very much and play anymore.
But even to that, I sat outside the studio here one day waiting to come in 15 minutes, and I watched the people going up and down the street, and the adults, probably 90% of them were doing this.
Well, and that's what makes it hard, right? That we tell our kids to do things that we're not doing, kind of that do as I say, not as I do thing. Yeah, I think it makes it really hard.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's not be too hard on Facebook and YouTube because we do have some loyal viewers that watch us every week on those two platforms.
Keep watching.
And we want them to keep doing
Keep
that.
watching. And also on WHAS Radio with iHeart and WHS TV. As always, thanks for watching Moral Side of the News this week. Let's move on to topic number 2. We turn to Cuba now. Lots of discussion lately about its future. According to the New York Times, nearly 3 years ago, in an article, it was reported Louisville had the fastest growing Cuban community in the country.
This is one the iconic picture about Cuba.
It's been almost 19 years of being away from home for Cuban American Darian Barrios, now living in Louisville.
We have this picture in our heart all the time.
Havana's skyline is always in clear view in the common area of his work in Fern Creek. Barrios has tried to go back again, but can't.
The situation in Cuba is so difficult right now for everybody. No electricity, no food, no medicine.
ABC News reported an island-wide blackout Monday night, resulting in the 3rd major blackout in the past 4 months. The Trump administration demands a move toward political and economic liberation.
It is not fiction. That's the truth.
Lydia Herrera has been in America for 8 years. She was a doctor in Cuba.
I have some friends like call me and crying because they don't have nothing to work. And when they can't give a complaint either.
President Trump continues to talk about Cuba.
Well, Cuba right now is in very bad shape. They're talking to Marco, and we'll be doing something with Cuba very soon.
Some Cuban Americans see a new future, the possible end of an over 65-year communist control, and the ability to return to what they only see now in pictures.
Every time when I saw this picture, I remember my country, you know? So hopefully in the future we can come back and enjoy with our families, our friends, like freedom country and freedom society.
Okay, panel, so lots of thoughts on Cuba, large community in Louisville. Your thoughts as a panel on Cuba?
I was just curious. One thought is that the point about Louisville being one of the fastest growing Cuban communities in the nation is surprising. I wonder what was the major attraction. I've happened to frequent a Cuban grocery store and restaurant in the Baptist Manor area. I've been doing that for a few years now. And I'm amazed at the kind of traffic of the people, this constant flow of traffic in and out of this store. So it must be a pretty large community here in Louisville for the Cuban community. Having said that, the situation that is going on in Cuba now is a ricochet effect of the tariffs, and I think what's going on over in Iran with the oil kind of, I won't call it embargo, but it is a ricochet effect to that, as I understand it. And the citizens there are the victims of this tariff crisis, for lack of a better term. Things in Cuba have improved substantially over the last 20 years. I know people, friends, who have visited Cuba over the last 20 years in a way they never would have done in the previous 60 years. So things have been relaxed substantially, especially since Castro has passed off the scene. So there has been nowhere near the level of hostility, animus with the nation, even with the government they're interacting with the United States, as it had been in the previous 60 or so years. So unfortunately this is going on, but my biggest curiosity is why Louisville has become the center of Cuban migration, and that is really a mystery to me.
I can answer that question in 3 words, Clay. Cost of living.
Okay.
The cost of living in Kentuckiana is much, much less than the cost of living in Dade County, Florida, the Miami area.
Okay.
Well, it's not just, Jefferson County, Southern Indiana. I mean, Shelby County, we've got a lot of people that are coming, and retiring in Kentucky because it is so much less expensive to live. And I always ask, how come you're here? What brought you here? I was in Lowe's, and I was talking to this guy helping me with light fixtures, light bulbs actually. It was kind of a mess, but he was wonderful. And he was from Russia. And I said, you're in Shelbyville? Why are you in Shelbyville? And he said, my wife. I go, okay, but I mean, he was, you know, so it's just really kind of curious. And you don't want to intrude on their space to say, well, how come? But then, I don't know, you know, what Tony?
Well, I'm taking a different left field on you.
Okay, you're going to go left field? Okay.
Going left field. But in regards to, I have a concern about what's happening, obviously, like most of us do, about what's happening in Cuba. And you mentioned, in a sense, what was the causation of that? Well, the tariffs and the Iranian war. It said Venezuelan, what we did in Venezuela. That's where they were getting their oils from.
Oh, I see. That's the main.
Without the oil, they don't have the other industries, et cetera. But my concern as well is when they quoted the president, they're saying, you know, Cuba's in a, well, he should know Cuba's in a bad strait. Well, his other comments they did not show you just recently is, I own Cuba. I can do with Cuba whatever I want to do with Cuba. In other words, kind of like the Trump doctrine instead of the Monroe doctrine. He wants Greenland, he wants Cuba, all this stuff. He wants the kind of American, the way he sees America the Great. I keep reminding people, you know, the whole thing, Make America Great Again, MAGA, that was coined, well, not America, but changed one word, Germany. That was coined by Adolf Hitler in his wonderful little document that he wrote.
Yeah.
So, but my point though is, well, not that we want to see a communist country to the south of us, no, not that we want to see the type of government they have, no. But again, as Paul says in Romans, you know, you can't do anything wrong or evil no matter how much good comes about. And I think what it is, to my mindset, what's happening in Cuba, we must own part of that ourselves because of what's happening from our administration there. And it's the means to the end, which is questionable in my mind.
Well, my question was going to be, you know, are they going to be any happier than any other country, than the people in Venezuela, than the people in Iran, or the people, you know, what's the other country? You know, are they going to be any happier once we've gone in? Because I don't think some of these places are a lot happier.
Oh, no. I'm thinking, flip the coin. We have below, how many miles from mainland U.S. is
90 miles.
90 miles. Flip it to China and Taiwan. Now, we get all upset because China is threatening Taiwan, but here we are doing the same thing to Cuba, and we say, well, that should be okay because we're America, we're the United States. Not that I want China to take over Taiwan, no, none of that, but I think the process is
comparable.
Yeah.
Empire building is a tricky proposition.
Yes.
And just, if you have it, you have immense responsibility that you didn't have before.
Yes.
And that therein lies the problem with regard to Cuba, with regard to Venezuela, and perhaps with regard to Greenland.
I think about how much sociological and economic change, how slow that actually has. You know, I think we all, when we were watching that story and looking at the vehicles, the cars, and the realization that they really do drive cars like that today, right? And I think back, you know, the story said, you know, 30 years under communist rule, you know, it's like you can take communism out of the country, but can you take that out of the people, so to speak, right? It's change, even minor change, sometimes just takes so long and it's so complicated. Yes. I was reminded of a gentleman who was a part of our church, who worked on the riverboat things, and he said that those captains know a mile away from the bridge if they're going to hit the bridge, and it's an illustration of the incremental change that it takes to move one of those boats. And I look at countries like Cuba, and that's driving cars that. Even our kids have no idea, like that's what a car looked like, that's right. Kind of deal, right? But to try to help in some way or change in some way, wow, does it take a long time?
It does indeed.
Well, you know, we got to remember that at some point, the United States did in effect own Cuba. I mean, after the Spanish-American War in 1898, we had it for a season, and then gave it back. But even after that, through the 40s, 30s, and up to the 50s, that was the playground of the mafia. Y'all saw the movie The Godfather. I mean, that was the Las Vegas before Vegas was Vegas.
Right.
And when they had to change of regime through the revolution, of course, they lost that war, and Castro took over. That's why it was frozen in time in the 1950s. But speaking of the old vehicles, what amazes me, those vehicles still running.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of gas are they running on now? I mean, is it? I mean, but that's the miracle of miracles right there. Like when the children of Israel wandered for 40 years in the wilderness and none of their clothes wore out and all that. That's the miracle of miracles. I think we need to look at that and find how they did that and recreate that genius and put that in a bottle and sell it. But anyway, we've always had a challenge with Cuba. We've always had our hand in Cuba. Our hands have been off for the most part for 50 plus years. And then that crisis with Kenya, of course, with the Bay of Pig fiasco back in the
One of the latest
61.
reports, though, is, Clay, is that Russia is sending oil trawlers to Cuba. They're pressing the point.
Okay.
With the United States trying to stop them.
Daring them to stop them.
Daring them to stop them. So.
The Cuban,
Well, we've been
Cuban
that
Missile Crisis.
we've been that road
two.
before.
Part 2, yeah.
So anyway.
I don't think we have enough time to move on to the last topic of the day, but this is a distinguished panel. We're not going to play the package fill, but we wrapped up grant hearings.
Yes.
We don't have time to view that. We had a great story. Go to WHSO.com and look up the story on Louisville Lightning. It's a fantastic story by one of our beloved children who've been helped, Max. Anyway, talk to us a little bit about the grant season, the grant hearings. We've wrapped them up. 249 agencies, over $14 million, and this panel, along with some others on this show frequently, help decide where that money goes. We have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, one of my major concerns was the people saying they don't know what's going to happen with Medicaid and Medicare. That was a great concern with several of them. But, because we try to do the best we can for each agency, and hopefully we can do as much as possible. But if they're looking at some sort of crisis with funding, then that also affects what we try to do.
Yeah, I asked each school that when I was on it, if you're saying you're getting this much money from the state or from the federal government, is that reliable? And to your point, most say, well, we hope it is, but we don't know. So.
And my thought is on June 6th and 7th, when Crusade actually happens, is maybe we can help change your perspective that don't see those firemen and volunteers as a nuisance or an irritation.
Right.
Like seriously, even now, start collecting your change so you can start throwing it into those boots. Because imagine what our job could have been like with even more money. Right. So my message is give lots of money.
Well, I tell everyone, if you take a penny collection up like so, you can't do that anymore. You got to take nickels. But if you're going to give to the crusade, bring the pennies in. We might find a 1943 copper penny there that's worth $100,000.
Are you going to go through all those?
30 seconds left, Scanner Clay, quickly.
Yeah, we talk about pennies. I think last year the crusade earned $30,000 in pennies. Yeah. That's significant.
Yeah, you can feel that. We could cover a lot of grants with those small grants, but the grant season is always it's tough and tender.
Right.
I mean, it pulls your heartstring and then it breaks your heart. Because you wish you could do more, but you can't.
Yeah.
So, but it's why we do what we do. We're more than just pretty faces on TV with the moral side. We do work behind the scenes at the crusade.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you all, pretty faces today, Father Tony, Sally, Stan, George, and Clay. Thanks for watching Moral Side of the News this week.